My mother's first cousin, I got to know back in the early 2000s. My mother is an artist and was an artist. She's no longer alive. She's very talented. In my family, we have a lot of talented people who can. I've got judges in my family. I've got a poet who has books in the Library of Congress with my name. In case you didn't know that, Alice Armfield Penry. And then there's Mike, who could. His artistry and his talent was so wonderful, and it was never used to its full capability. I met Mike. I want everybody to hear this, please, because this has taken me a lot of guts to stand up here and talk about Mike Van Strauss. Mike was born Sharon Schoaf. I never knew him as anything but Mike. He was Uncle Mike to my kids. He had pretty rough childhood because he was confused and, he was a troublemaker a little bit. And when he started getting into some trouble, this as a female, he started getting some trouble. He got arrested. He did some stuff. His very, 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 very Christian parents did not like his behavior. He was out of control. She was out of control at that time. And at this time, she also started considering, I think what's wrong with me is that this is not me. And what I'm telling you is firsthand what he has told me. I'm not conjuring, I'm not indicating. This is what he and I have talked about many, many, many times. He became an alcoholic, raging alcoholic. His parents disowned him completely. The family was embarrassed by him. Now, let me just add, not my part of the family, not my grandmother or grandfather or mother or brother. They disowned him. He went on with his life. He started taking his hormonal therapies when he was in his 20s. And he had a doctor he used his entire adult life, one doctor. That's who he used. They knew him, he knew them, and they took care of him. He took these hormones every day of his life until he died. He had a beard, smoked cigarettes, unfortunately. Deep voice. He was happily married for over 40 years legally to Joyce Van Strauss. So Uncle Mike and Aunt Joyce, they're part of my family. They came to my house for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And when times fell hard on them, very, very hard, they ended up living at a Motel 6. For about 2 years. They're part of the working poor. He did not want our children, that would be Drew, Maggie, and William, to know his past. He didn't want anybody to know his past. He made me promise that we would not tell our children until he had passed. And I honored that request, because I respected him enough to do that. Never talked about it. He was kicked out of 2 churches when they found out. He was a very religious man with incredible biblical knowledge. I meant to bring one of the cards he sent to me. Beautiful handwriting. He had a strong faith. He and his wife would pray every morning. They had kind of a Bible prayer every morning of their lives. I was there with them in Virginia on my 32nd birthday, I think, when my mom and I went up to see him. And he doesn't have a happy ending very much. He died younger than he should have. But I had one conversation with him, and I'm not going to go on and on and on, but I had one conversation with him about these drugs. Because I want to know, I was curious. I want to know, where are you getting them? How are you getting them? What are you paying for them? And we were close enough to where we could have these very open discussions. And then I asked him, I said, well, I asked him about side effects and stuff, like bad stuff. He said, well, I think they're definitely going to shorten my life. I know they're hurting my health overall. And then he said he didn't care because it's what he wanted as an adult. I respected that too. And he did die younger than he should have. He died in his 60s. And I paid for his funeral. And I paid for his wife's funeral. I'm going to support the bill because I do not think minors should be exposed to these drugs where we do not know the full effects long term. Once you're 18, I don't care, frankly. You're an adult. For me, this is about minors, children. I didn't bring this bill to the floor. I didn't host this bill, but it's here. So, okay, we have to take it seriously. And I know my mama would be proud of me talking about this when everybody else pushed him aside in my family, wouldn't help him. I did as much as I could do, but, I never thought of him as a transgendered man, ever. He was just Mike. Never thought of him that way. I tried a couple times to look at him and see, how could you ever, and I've seen baby pictures and saw pictures of him when he was a girl with my mom when they were growing up and stuff, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. We used to laugh about it and joke about it. He made a special scrapbook for my son, and then he had this additional part he gave to me to give to him after he died, which told the rest of his story. And then when he died, my husband and I sat down with Drew, Maggie, and William, who are pretty cool kids, got great children. They're so good. And we go through this explanation about Uncle Mike. And all three of them are like, what? I mean, it was mind-blowing. Mind-blowing, y'all. And then they said, okay. After all that. And I told Mike, you should tell our kids, it's going to be okay. And he would not do it. And he could have had their love and support in addition to mine and my mom's and Todd's. But I just don't want us to ever lose perspective that we are talking about real people, maybe not many. We're talking about a very small percentage of people. And I've had a couple occasions where nobody would talk to some of these people who've asked to speak to any senator. I did this last week. Any senator, nobody was available or could come out or whatever. I said, okay, I'll come out. Just to listen. I'm voting yes for the bill. I think we need to. But I think we also need, again, as I said on Tuesday, to show great grace and not so much condemnation and judgment. As Christians, we are called to do that. So I love these people. I love Mike. I might not have approved of his choices and didn't understand him, but I loved him. So I support the amendment. I support the bill. And I'm not taking questions because I think I'm about to cry. And Miss Katrina Shealy of Lexington, this kind senator for Lexington, has told me, senators don't cry. So I can't talk anymore. I'm going to cry. Except for who? Oh, okay. Thank you. That's all. Unless there's a really important question out there, I'm not taking questions. Thank you.